Amidst demands in the farm worker fields for immigrant rights on campuses and in city barrios, the movement gathered strength and gave birth to dynamic leaders. Less well known than some of the other crimes of Cointelpro are those committed against the Chicano-Mexicano movements.
Cointelpro probably just didn't hit us in Colorado. It hit us in Nuevo Mexico. It hit us in California.
Bang bang raza, it's the Outlaw News Gang. The Cholo journalist, the voice of the barrio, the voice of the Vato Loco. Hope all you Vatos in Vato land are doing well, staying safe and healthy, and most importantly mentally maintaining, staying disciplined and focused. Your boys from the Outlaw knows it's hard out here right now, with COVID, the lockdown, work, the kids' distant learning bullshit, and now the financial burden of buying Christmas presents, when many of us are finding it tough to even pay bills right now. But stay focused, disciplined, be strong, dig deep inside yourselves, and find your warrior spirit. In these times, raza, we must be fluid, adaptive, creative. We must be like water homies. Make no mistake, these current events are meant to break us, break our spirit, break us financially, and to break families and communities apart. Raza, we must see there's light at the end of the tunnel. Know the sun will shine after the storm. We must not fear, we must embrace struggle, because struggle is where warriors are born. Okay homies, before we rant off topic, let's get down to business. Today's Chicano today, you Vatos in Vato land are gonna see some shit that no lying celebrity snitch, like Vendito puppet Mundo Mendoza, or rapist Boxer Enriquez will ever talk about, let alone show you the actual documents. Don't expect to hear this topic on some other gangster YouTuber channel either. The parole officer production team, don't allow these topics. Only GP prisoners are monsters. Blame yourself, not the system. NSNY is Disneyland, with a river which flows of chocolate, and lollipops growing wild on the yard. Topics are allowed, not even the alleged noble courageous crime fighters, who protect law-abiding citizens from the manufactured boogeymen they create, will show you or even speak on. What the Outlaw News gonna show you today. They'll fear documents like what you Vatos are about to see will expose them as deceiving, manipulative liars. And they should fear, because these manufactured snitch influencers, and so-called crime fighters, frequently ridicule, mock, and call anyone who challenges their Swiss cheese narrative a conspiracy theorist. Today the Outlaw uses their own documents to prove there just might be some conspiracy, or should we say clandestine operation, against the barrio, and fake Christian serial killer Mundo and Megan's Law celebrity Boxer Enriquez and their puppet masters have been intentionally misleading the raza about the truth. The Outlaw would love to see these fairy tale telling celebrity wankster snitches or their puppet masters call today's Declassify some crazy conspiracy that lacks actual proof. Okay, raza, let's get it. Enough talking. Check it homies. What you Vatos are staring at, you might have seen use in previous videos before by your boys here at the Outlaw. It's page 1 from the FBI's declassified Mexican Mafia files. They are legit, straight from the FBI's website, a genuine government document, not made up photoshopped images like Mundo's perplexed news BS documents for those puto celebrity snitch fanboy groupies who think these are fake documents. Producing or possessing fake or forged government documents is a federal crime, so if you feel the Outlaw is lying, feel free to rat us out. Just remember, making false claims or causing a wrongful arrest is also a crime, and you can be sued for it as well. Now that you know, let's get back to the business at hand. The FBI's Mexican Mafia declassified files, not just the files, but the very first page of the Mexican Mafia file, dated 1973. This first page not only shows what the organization is labeled originally, but also the official reason why an investigation was even opened in the first place against the Mexican Mafia. Watcha homies, look, you clearly see here, the organization is labeled under extremist matters, and the reason for the official investigation was extremist activities inside penal institutions, specifically San Quentin. How many you Vatos ever remember hearing some snitch influencers, or so-called gang experts refer to the organization as extremist on TV interviews, or some well-promoted book, never right there, too busy telling the public to be scared, to fear their manufactured boogeymen, while quietly subconsciously glorifying and influencing young naive youngsters that guns, drugs, and going to prison is what's expected of them. Fear does one thing, homies. It keeps you ignorant, blinds you from reality, and conditions you not to question and submit. Raza, it's important to point out that the government labeled people and groups like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, the Brown Berets, Black Lives Matters, anti-war activist, the Black Panthers, and just about any political organization with leftist-leaning ideology as extremist. So, how an organization that's been brainwashed into our brains is a criminal organization, similar to the Italian Mafia by celebrity snitches, and so-called gang experts, for countless years, with help from fake news deputized reporters, end up officially labeled an extremist political organization. Especially when the compulsive liar Mundo Mendoza is so positively sure that his former organization held no political views except for a very small handful of brothers, which Mendoza and Morgan either had killed or ran out of the organization for some mysterious reasons. Clearly a fucking lie, one of many he spews. Now Vatos, let's dive into the nuts and bolts of the investigation. Against the very first investigation into this organization dated 1973, according to the FBI memo, it's investigating Cadina's correspondence with fellow brothers, leaders of the Nuestra Familia, and some unknown deleted person's name, who sent Cheyenne Cadena letters. There's no mention of drug dealing activities, murder, assault, any criminal type activity that this organization is so famously known for, just some letters Cadena either sent or received. For those vato locos who pay good attention to any celebrity snitch influencer or their puppet masters, Cadena was sending and receiving letters about his anti-hostilities agreement between the two major Chicano organizations in California prisons, just prior to his assassination. Except some of them were never sent or received, instead confiscated by prison guards. So Raza, it's obvious the FBI began not investigating not the organization, but Cadena's political activities and peace efforts.
Nobody in here knows what peace is. They've never had it. I'm talking about power, carnal. The only way for us to gain real power is for black and brown to come together. ¿Me entiendes?
Right now, you probably think to bat a lot of this shit is blacked out. It would be cool to see what that shit was, Kano. Well, you're not rocking with one of these YouTube prison wanksters influencers. You're rocking with the Outlaw. We drop Kletcha, not bullshit secret spread recipes, best spot to rape a man, trash or downplay the anti-hostilities agreement, or how SNY is Disneyland, and so much better than GP while spontaneously pushing a book, product, mentor services, or link to donate money to their snake oil salesman cause. The Outlaw News may not have a unredacted copy, but we do know what most of these codes under the deleted segments mean, and can fill in most these blacked out names, from cross-referencing them with other documents previously. The first two deleted parts are referring to the sources used in the memo's investigation. They are worded and deleted in a way of implying some sort of informant, but really it's some government employee, prison administration, or guards. Besides homies, this investigation is into a group. There are specific laws that prevent names of individuals from becoming made public, none related to any criminal activities or informing, mostly private policy and defamation issues. Miraza, the Outlaw wants to quickly point out Rudy Cadena's name is not deleted in this or any other declassified documents. As you vatos will see in future shows regarding the Mexican Mafia FBI files, neither Cadenas or any other alleged members who are known to have held some political leftist ideology, names are deleted. On the other hand, all other alleged members' names are deleted and you'll find no specific deleted name, which might possibly be referring to Mundo Mendoza. Remember, many of these documents are before Mundo allegedly began his career as provocateur and manipulative liar for law enforcement in March of 1977. But they are produced after Mundo spent time at Vacaville Medical Facility's notorious Lister unit in 1972 participating in secret experimental drug and behavioral modification programs.
Mendoza, you've been selected to be enrolled in the Lister program. It's a surgery to remove the front part of the brain that controls the violence. It's a government-funded program.
Now returning back to the document, the second deleted part is the person who furnished Cadenia's letters to the federal investigators. Considering that retired San Quentin Sergeant William E. Hankins, the first law enforcement individual who started labeling and investigating Chicano prisoners as belonging to the Mexican Mafia in the late 60s, has testified before a congressional investigation into revolutionary activities inside prisons in 1974, claiming to possess several letters sent to and from one R. Cadena, the correspondence being his fellow homies, leaders of the Nuestra Familia, and some again deleted woman. So it's a very strong possibility that Sergeant Hankins is the individual being mentioned in the deleted part regarding the source furnishing the letters. Now the woman, again only speculation, but the Outlaw News believes this woman to be Donna James, who according to Mundo Mendoza, Donna James was corresponding with Cadena just prior to his assassination. James is alleged to be a member or affiliated with the Venceremos organization. Sergeant Hankins testified that the woman corresponding with Cadena was a member, or closely aligned with the Venceremos organization. The woman who was corresponding with Cadena was an informant. Not only is the woman's name deleted in Hankins' testimony, even though all other members of the Venceremos organization are named in Hankins' testimony. But if you look at the top of the declassified file paragraph, you see two sets of codes, one letter followed by a number or number letter combo. These codes signify the reason the two items below are classified. First one B2 means it's some type of government or law enforcement type employee or other than informant sources. The second raza, B7D, means informant sources, which means the person deleted in the declassified files who corresponded with Cadena was the informant. Now check it for toes, again Mundo Mendoza, alleges, and it's true for once, the woman Donna James, who Mundo claims corresponded with Cadena and was connected to the Venceremos organization, would go on to fade away from the political activist scene to marry a man by the name of Steve Amador, the same Vato homies who ordered the assault on the Aranda brothers, which led to the murder of Cadena inside Chino prison in 1972. Now finally, if you've read the last few lines carefully, you see that these letters to and from Cadena regarding his political activities and peace efforts are placed in a separate file and kept classified under national security matters. Now, maybe the Outlaw is just some crazy conspiracy theorist with our tinfoil hat on too tight. But what does Cadena's letters of peace have to do with national security matters? Wait though, homeboys, because that's not all that can be found in the page. No, not at all, Chales. If you stare at this document as a whole, knowing it's where it all began, the reason for investigation, the spying on Cadena's political and peace activities, you come to see this as not a criminal investigation, but a Cointelpro investigation. The labeling of political extremist, the illegal spying, the covering up of their tactics, the use of agent provocateurs, are all MOs and tactics of Cointelpro, used against leftist extremists. Since the late 70s, congressional investigations into the government's illegal Cointelpro program's activities, its crimes have been exposed and well documented. Raza, as a result of the inquiries into Cointelpro activities, it was learned that groups like the Black Panthers, Brown Berets, anti-war activist, American Indian Movement, work unions, women's rights groups, churches, and many civil rights activists and leaders were targeted by the Cointelpro program. What little came out of these congressional hearings was the spying, infiltration, agent provocateurs that were used against the Chicano community and gangs. Yes, vatos, Cointelpro was used against gangs. Some of its most effective provocateurs were recruited from some street gang or criminal elements. It's well known in activist circles that organizations like the Young Lords, Latin Kings, Chicago's Black P. Stone, now the El Rukans, and Larry Hoover's Gangster Disciples, were all infiltrated and victims of Cointelpro. Here on the West Coast, the hotbed of leftist ideology, the Black Guerrilla Family, the Panthers, San Diego street gangs, Brown Berets, and just about every student group or grassroots organizations were all victims of Cointelpro. You can even find some well-known Crips and Blood OGs, who suspect these Cointelpro type tactics were implemented against their groups.
Boy, Joker. A lot of talk about cats who are getting pulled off the streets, who were getting told to do things, if you don't go do this, you're going back to jail for that.
We the one that orchestrated everything that comes to the park, the football games and everything. It seemed like it didn't even last long.
I think some of it was rumors. Didn't until I start meeting some of these guys firsthand.
This is proof. When they arrested me, it was 35 cars. They took my car and did a drive-by out of my car before they brought it to the station. My car wasn't impounded. They did a drive-by out of my car.
The police took your car?
Yeah, it was a special task force. And did a drive-by out of my car.
Now, how you know that?
Yeah, folks, the 30 Pirus told me. We got real close.
So they went in the 30 Piru hood?
Yeah, going on the way to Newton Street and shot out my car. Made it seem like we was just going back to B.
And this is doing the B Street?
Doing the B Street.
The question your boys at the Outlaw have for you vatos in Vadoland is what makes us Chicanos special to think our street organizations, our prison groups, or just the Chicano urban street groups, were safe from Cointelpro tactics. When everyone around us were victims of the counterintelligence operation, our friends, our foes all fell victims to the Cointelpro activities. Raza, often we portray our race to be more intelligent or up on game than other minorities. Yet, these other minorities most often are familiar with terms such as Cointelpro, or agent provocateurs. Many, though vaguely, can tell you about illegal activities, which were used on their people or community. The Raza, on the other hand, seems to know nothing about illegal tactics used against our people. Thinking that most bad shit that happens in the barrio somehow's our fault. Yes, cabrons, we lobby city council to flood our communities with liquor stores, military recruiting offices, poorly trained teachers, and money-hungry churches. That's much more helpful to our communities than children and family centers, funding for sport leagues, college recruiting or job training offices. Open your eye vatos, look around you, listen carefully. The Raza doesn't own recording companies, who produce self-destructive criminal behavior-themed music. Some corporation, who invest heavily in private prisons, do its Nevada Loco, who makes Hollywood gangster flicks which portray and glorify gangsters, gangs, criminal activity, and especially murder. Again vatos, some corporation with financial ties to the prison industrial complex does. We don't even have any say-so over news reports, gang documentaries, or books. The man, on the other hand, who approve news stories or documentaries before airing. Most the time they even produce the documentaries themselves or pitch the idea to producers. They even tightly control their informants, arranging and scripting informants' interviews. Ghostwriting their books, which are published by some chorizo-owned or extremely right-wing publishing company. Even here on YouTube, they're secretly producing the content, directing the narrative, and promoting YouTube's newest and fastest-growing genre, prison-themed channels. With help from CBT-trained SNY police, or brainwashed step-down program shoe prisoners, which host these popular channels. The people have much to fear, when the ruling class controls the culture. The Raza has been victimized by Cointelpro and Cointelpro-type tactics for many years now, as far back as the Zoot Suit riots in 1943, the Sleepy Lagoon trial, the murders of journalist Ruben Salazar, Rudy Cadena, Chicano activist Ricardo Falcone, Rito Canales and Antonio Cordova, the flooding of our communities with mind-altering drugs and guns, which our government intelligence agencies refer to as unconventional warfare tactics, previously in declassified documents, then using well-coached informants bearing intimidating tattoos, who throw around names of people and organizations to scare unsuspecting naive youngsters into blind obedience. Which always leads to a major so-called gang suppression operation, or homies turning on each other with guns, or by testifying. The cleverly produced news reports by mass media, self-destructive content and music, the negative stereotyping of Chicano people and culture on gang documentaries and movies, are also very much Cointelpro-type tactics. Experimental studies have been conducted on the effects of watching too much crime reality-based TV programming. Homies' findings have shown that after long periods of exposure to this type of television programs, the average normal citizens develop a stronger stereotyping of minorities as criminals. On the flip side, these type of programs subconsciously glamorize and brainwash the young, naive, unsuspecting viewers to believe that this antisocial behavior is what's expected of them, that the height of gangsterism and respect, is in some solitary confinement shoe unit at Pelican Bay. The Outlaw wants to point out that television shows are professionally called programs. RAZA, one definition of program is a presentation or item on television or radio, especially one broadcast regularly between stated times. That is the common term we tend to associate with television, or the term they want you to associate with television. But we RAZA seldom remember what else program can mean a set of related measures or activities with a particular long-term aim, or cause a person or animal to behave in a predetermined way. Lastly, a series of coded software instructions to control the operation of a computer or other machine. Believe it or not, the human mind acts and receives information similar to a computer. And they know this. They've been using television and today's social media to program RAZA into believing the BS propaganda since the 90s. They've used television and music to sell their brainwashing narrative to us in the barrios. Because the 90s is when Chicano prison gangs became a household name in the Chicano communities. Though prison gangs are much older, 2 movies and a Chicano rap CD in the early 90s etched the names Mexican Mafia and Nuestra Familia into the brains of every young naive kid who's just looking to be part of something so clearly since the 90s. The RAZA has been bombarded, conditioned, and programmed to accept political consciousness as not part of your history and culture. That prison is a rite of passage for young minorities, self-destructive behavioral is cool, and the most covert message of all: after you do all the dumb shit they wanted you to do, you will be offered a chance to become a celebrity snitch influencer like Boxer or Mundo. The publishing of Boxer Enriquez's book and the rise of SNY is no coincidence. Boxer is frequently used to talk, meaning convince others to debrief. Boxer tells them how much fame he's gotten since debriefing, money, and protection from future drugs and criminal acts like busting fellow prisoners' cheeks. By now, you vatos can hopefully come to the realization that the homie has been hoodwinked, tricked, fooled, bamboozled to accept you're supposed to behave in a self-destructive manner, with no ambition to better your conditions or surroundings. That the height of gangsterism is to be looked up in some prison shoe unit at Pelican Bay. All that can be found in this one page of the Mexican Mafia FBI Declassified Files, page 1. RAZA, you see you've been lied to about the origins of Chicano organizations in prison. These official documents were researched using mostly intelligence from prison administrators, and yet this organization is labeled a revolutionary-type extremist organization. Look again, and before we call it quits for today's Clecha. For our northern Chicano brothers in the struggle viewers or NF history buffs, look closely vatos, because there's something very important about the Nuestra Familia to be said as well. This document outdates the Nuestra Familia FBI file documents by several years. As early as 1973, now mind you RAZA, this page's intelligence is referring to 1972 events. The Nuestra Familia is labeled a Mexican-American revolutionary group inside CDC, now CDCR. And this is just one of many times both as Chicano prison organizations are referred to as Mexican-American revolutionary groups. Orale RAZA, it's about that time homie Claus has a few things around the pad need doing, string a few more lights up, wrap presents, see if Mama Claus has been naughty or nice, so you vatos in Vato land know what's up. Stay suited and booted. Be ready, cause the Outlaw News will be doing more decoding and breaking down the declassified FBI files. You remember homies venceremos.